All right. So one thing that I feel that can be safely said about creating people, of having children, having babies, I think one thing that can very safely be said about it, many people don't really think much about it, like very deeply about it and very like long term about it. I think many people treat it pretty whimsically. People treat it as though it's really not that big of a deal. They go by, I mean, when it comes to relationships and marriage and having children, for many people, it's more so just feelings. I feel like this is the thing that is just, and often it's not even that. It's just like we were just kind of fucking for a little bit, and then conception occurred, and I guess we carry it to term. Fuck it. We're having a baby. We're going to have some babies. We're going to just see how that plays out. That's how many people treat the creation of people. And I feel like there are going to be times in your life where you should trust your gut. You should trust that more so, like the intuition part of you, if you're like. But when it comes to the creation of people, I think more people should try to be more the other part, the other side, like trying to like really reason it out a little bit more, and not entirely. Like you can't rely purely on the sort of cold, calculated part of the brain that's just, all right, how's this going to play out? And like trying to account for all of the fucking unpredictability, the volatility of human life. That's fucking impossible. But you should incorporate that, though, when it comes to the creation of people. I feel like, and in the past, that's what human beings did a bit more of. Not everybody, but many people. I feel nowadays it is more so like going by feeling. Like, how do I feel about this person? And feelings are really volatile. Feelings are not going to be the thing that really, like 1 week you might feel like, oh, this is the one. This is the one for me. I'm going to marry this person one day. He's perfect. She's perfect. And then the next week you're going to be like, well, fuck, they're not that at all. They're actually rather mediocre. I don't even really want to be around this person like for the next week, let alone the entirety of our lives. And that's a common sort of, and people will like have children with that person, with a person, based on those really fleeting, silly, whimsical feelings. And feelings are important. Feelings are a necessary part of life. I understand why people have them. I've never felt anything personally for anything ever. I feel every day of my life, and I wish I didn't sometimes. But when it comes to feelings, though, you shouldn't rely on them for monumental decisions, like creating people. You shouldn't purely do it based on, I feel like this is I feel like this is going to work out. Everything's going to fall into place. It's really, everything will be just fine. And you shouldn't treat the creation of people like that, because many people do, and it oftentimes doesn't quite work out that way. It's not like, well, it falls into place. Sometimes, oftentimes, most of the time, eventually it doesn't. It falls apart. It's a catastrophic train wreck when people, and life, like a few of the things that we are owed here is eventual catastrophe. That's just what's going to happen eventually. But you got to try to account for some of the things that are more predictable than the other things, like in terms of who you're fucking and how you're fucking them if you're fertile. Because if you're not, who cares? You can fuck whoever you want, so long as it's like, a consensual sort of thing. You go for it, right? But if you stand to create people, because that, like, I've described it as a slippery slope, and that is what it is. That's, many people, when it comes to the creation of people, it's a really fucking slippery slope. And people underestimate that. Like, in terms, just more so casual fucking will oftentimes lead to a long-term relationship, and that long-term relationship will ultimately be based on things, the attachment will develop, and a very powerful attachment at that oftentimes, but it'll be based on shit that is again, like, not very good, and then it falls apart, and then they're left wondering, well why did that happen? What did you think was going to happen? So, just some more Captain Hindsight shit. Like, you gotta try to prepare for, and you gotta try to account for things. You shouldn't just, like, create people because you feel like it's something that'll probably just kind of work itself out, because it probably won't. Those are my thoughts in this video. 5 minutes, that's pretty good. Around the 5-minute mark, I think I'll end it here. But yeah, back to the same sort of advice. Like, hey, be pretty careful about who you're fucking and how you're fucking them, because this slope is slippery and the stakes are really high, And it is not something that just happens to stupid people. I think that people will underestimate just how prone they are to fuck themselves over by underestimating just how slippery of a slope it can be. And I can easily see myself slipping down that slope if I'm not attempting to account for the future catastrophes awaiting if I am to fuck around in that particular area of, like, because our brains, our stupid primate brains, they're helpful in many ways, but man, they're not to be trusted when it comes to the really big deal sort of stuff, like creating people. You shouldn't rely on. Those are my thoughts. That's the video for the day. Ultimately, it just comes down to, hey, creating a person, creating people, a very consequential thing to do with yourself and other people. Because domino effect, cause and effect, and those sorts of things.